Did y'all get a little pop up that says that you're started recording? Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, I'll start just by introducing myself. I'm Carson Kaiser. I'm from Canton, Georgia. Got my undergrad at Clemson in management, and then was fortunate enough to be able to do my master's here in athletic leadership. And I'm currently a football video GA with the Clemson football team here, so I've been very lucky to do that.
I can go next. My name's Cole Simpson. I'm from Pendleton, South Carolina, like right outside Clemson. I did my undergrad at the Citadel down in Charleston. I played baseball there, and then this is my first semester doing athletic leadership with Clemson. I'm a PE teacher over at a middle school in Easley, and I coach baseball there as well.
What's up, y'all? My name is Xavier Lockwood. I'm a grad transfer from Florida State University. I'm from Tampa, Florida, originally. I run track and field here at Clemson, and this is my first year as well in the grad program too.
I can go next. I'm Kehlani Merton. I'm in the Student Affairs Master's program, originally from Arkansas, but I've been here in Clemson for about 4 years now. My husband is a PhD student in math as well, so that's why I'm here. Yeah, excited about this. This is my second year in the program.
All right, and then if we just want to get started, I guess we
I can
just jump
go.
right.
Sorry, I have really
Oh
bad
no, no, you're fine.
Wi-Fi
You're
right
fine.
now. Oh, sorry. I have super bad Wi-Fi and it's really choppy right now. I'm Abby. This is my first semester in the program. I got my undergrad from Limestone University in Gaffney, South Carolina, and I work in Charlotte now.
Awesome, awesome. My Wi-Fi, I still don't have it, so I'm fortunate enough to be able to like go to a place that does have Wi-Fi. But like, if I didn't have this, I would be SOL right now. So I can relate to that. But jumping into the first one, now obviously with situational leadership, and kind of talking about examples when this would be appropriate to use in collegiate athletics. And after reviewing some of our material in the lecture that Professor Butler had, the first thing that kind of jumped to my mind was as a coach when you're correcting mistakes and how you handle that, like the situation might determine how you handle it from a aggressive standpoint or passive standpoint. Like if a freshman who's been at your school for a week or 2 weeks is making a mistake, you're probably not going to blow up on them necessarily. Whereas if you've got maybe a fifth year senior who's making the same simple mistake, maybe that causes you to have more of an aggressive approach with them. Aggressive might not be the best word for it, but more of like a firm approach, like, hey, we got to get going. And then just another thought I had was kind of like, situational awareness in terms of like where it's happening at, right? Like if you're in the fourth quarter of a big game and a player doesn't know what they're doing necessarily, that might be a time where you've got to be more firm with them versus if you're in fall camp or preseason practice and they make that mistake, you can be more passive with them and kind of, hey, take them under the shoulder, like, hey, it's okay that you messed up here. Let's just approach it a different way. So those are just two instances I had thought of with situational leadership and how they can be applied, and would love to hear y'all's comments on that and y'all's thoughts as well.
Yeah, Carson, going off of that, mine kind of went to the same like scenario. But one example that I kind of came to mind was Alabama's program for this year with Coach DeBoer, being his first year and everything, kind of trying to fill the shoes with Coach Saban, like, the past decade or so of greatness for Alabama. But I feel like Coach Saban had more of like an intense mindset and an intense approach to coaching, whereas like Coach DeBoer has like kind of a softer approach to his players, like kind of trusting his players more, and kind of trusting the process. But like you said, with the situational awareness, I guess like at the beginning of the season, they're kind of softer, have a softer approach, kind of easing them into it, and then at the middle part of the season, kind of or at the end of the season, really, to have more of a aggressive approach, kind of weeding out those small mental mistakes or physical mistakes so they can grow as players.
I definitely agree with you what you were saying earlier, Carson, about just how like as an older collegiate athlete, they'll have kind of like a strict little toughness than a freshman coming in, all that kind of stuff. And I can feel that as like now just with me being transferring into this program, I feel that like, leadership when it comes down to my coach, he won't really tell me that many things where he'll have to explain to a freshman instead of explaining to me. So I just feel like that plays a big part in leadership. Just pretty much me helping out the freshmen. Because I've been here before. I've been in college for over 4 years. So it's just like that plays a big part into just a leadership situation, leadership as well. Just knowing you're adapting to like just changing and also awareness of going on in the program as well.
Yeah, I can hop in. I'm going to take a little bit of a different perspective, like I had talked about. So whenever I was thinking about this, with like delegating, for me with my RAs, the team that I supervise, for me that's like tasks. So little things like setup and tear down of events, and some administrative things. That's something that they know how to do. They don't need any more direction from me. They just need to be able to do that on their own. Supporting, I thought of this of like building rapport with their residents. It's something that we like coach them with a little bit in the beginning. And I'm here for support, but really that is like a them thing. That's theirs to take care of. And I can support them through like building those skills and stuff, but it's not something that I'm going to insert myself into. Or like putting on events that have an educational aspect to them. That's something that needs to come from them. I'm very supportive. I can get them resources if they need to, but that's their thing. And then with coaching, so training them, we do a lot of training in the summer, so that's what that my mind immediately went to. But also, so with that high directive and high support behavior, we also do one-on-ones. So if they have questions about stuff, like they have an opportunity to ask, or like on-call situations, there's always someone above them, in the on-call structure that they can call for support. And so that's kind of what that reminded me of.
Yeah, back to coaching a little bit. I coach gymnastics. That's one of the jobs that I have in gymnastics is a very individualized sport. It's not a game sport. And so you do kind of have to take a different approach with each of your athletes in practice, but especially at competitions when the nerves are high, you have to learn how to read each of your athletes and how to best support them in that time.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I think that's such a big part of the situational leadership. Is like it sounds like you do a great job of that, Abby, of understanding how the different players you have, like everybody's got different learning styles, and due to their experiences growing up and all that, they're gonna respond to an aggressive leadership or passive leadership in different ways. So it sounds like you got a great grasp on that. And then Kalani, I think you did a great job maybe talking about like I think micromanaging is a huge like I think as a leader, like I think it's easy to fall into that trap of feeling like, hey, you've got to check all this and do a million things. But it sounds like you do a great job of trying to avoid that, right? Because if you micromanage, it's like you're not like building your followers to have autonomy and believe in themselves and empower them to do all these things. So sounds like you have a great grasp on that. And then just moving on to servant leadership, like Xavier, and what you talked about, like how you mentioned like helping out the freshmen and stuff like that. Like I feel like that's so big with athletes who have been there and done that, right? Like I think it's easy for guys who have been there as fourth or fifth year seniors to, hey, I'm just going to show up. It's my senior year. I'm going to do my own thing, try and increase like me talking as like a football fan. That's just kind of where my brain's at. Like, hey, guy might come in. Hey, I'm going to boost my draft stock as high as I can be and get out of here. But it sounds like you do a great job of helping out the freshmen and younger guys as someone who's been there and done that. And just tying that into the servant leadership question in terms of the 10 pillars and which ones resonated with me. I'll start with the stewardship one in terms of like taking responsibility for your group that you're leading. Like I think that's something that can kind of get blurred maybe with micromanaging, but I think it's more of something that you put on yourself, right? That's like, hey, like like it's my job to put them in positions to succeed and to give them the tools and the navigation in order to succeed both athletically and academically. And so that was just one I thought of. And then another one I wrote down was listening. And this is one I actually wrote down just as something I feel like I could always be improving on, especially in leadership roles, right? Where like I feel like it's so easy. You could have a conversation with somebody and then maybe like they'll say something to you and then a minute goes by and it might just have gone in one ear and out the other. So those are the two that resonated with me. One that I really resonated with, and another that I felt like I could improve on. So would love to hear which ones resonated with y'all.
Yeah, one of the attributes that I kind of resonated with was listening, just because I'm not the strongest public speaker, so that's definitely one thing I need to work on. So like when I'm in those like big environments with like big crowds, I kind of shelter down. That's definitely one thing I need to work on though. But as far as listening goes, I feel like I'm pretty good on giving feedback. That like if one of my players comes back and asks me what's wrong with mechanics or something with baseball, I feel like I'm pretty good at giving them like positive feedback and what they need to do to take with that to help them get better. Um, and, like kind of observing the environment and observing like other people around me just so I can make kind of uplift them, I guess, and be more intentional.
I say one that really spoke out to me was healing. I last year I tore my Achilles, which was like it was last season supposed to be my last season collegiately. I tore my Achilles and I had to come back this year. And of course there was some confidence played a big factor into like doing some of the drills again because just like tearing your Achilles is kind of like a big injury, especially for the event I do. I'm a triple jumper. So I can say that played a big part into just my whole kind of just style with everything going on, just healing from all that injury. And I can say finally, I am kind of starting to get that healing back, but it's just more of like speaking out to others because there's other people on the team that deal with similar injuries, not a torn Achilles, but just injuries that happen. So learning how to prevent those injuries, learning how to make sure that doesn't happen again, but also staying confident and being able to still be able to compete and show up every day and knowing that, yeah, I just tore my Achilles, but just kind of forgetting that, like, just be able to have that confidence back again.
Yeah, a couple that stuck out to me was number 9, commitment to growth of people. Um, I have an RA team of 25 staff members, so it's a little bit bigger than I'm used to having, but something that I really wanted to focus this year on is some of that leadership development for them, because often this is usually their first job. So there's a lot of growth that usually happens from year to year. So that's something that I've really been working on this year and something I want to incorporate whenever I'm a full-time staff member as well. Is not just for my student staff, but any other like full-time staff that I'll supervise. That's something that's really important to me, and I'm really excited that I get to do that in this work. And then the other one was building community. All all RAs do is build community. So that was definitely one that kind of spoke to me there. Because we have a little bit larger of a team in comparison to some other communities. Sometimes that's a little bit difficult because like last year we had a couple of cliques. And just like friend groups that had already formed like before they were on staff together. So I've worked really hard to figure out how to navigate that and to build community in those spaces where we do have a really, really diverse team, and make sure that we can at least come to some kind of agreement and work together and build community based on our team and their strengths.
We actually had a lot of similar ones there. Building community was a big one for me too. I also manage a bunch of clubs throughout Charlotte. I'm the area director for the clubs, and so I'm moving around constantly, and new people are getting hired into the clubs that I don't really know because I'm not there for the day in and out stuff. But there's always going to be a time when you need support and you need somebody there. So still making an effort to create those relationships and build that community is something I'm not very good at doing, but that's a big learning curve I've had to get with. Stewardship was another one because you always want to pour into the people that are under you because that's the foundation for where you are. So if you're not taking care of what you have and what you manage, then you're never going to continue to grow. So that one stood out to me a lot.
Awesome. Awesome. And then I think as we move into the next question of who's modeling servant leadership in college athletics today, I'm going to have a biased answer just with my background and the building I get to work in is would be Coach Dabo Swinney, just a guy that I feel like is a player first man, really believes in his team, takes responsibility. In the past couple of years, when we faced adversity, he takes a ton of the responsibility and the blame and puts it on himself and just does an excellent job really with all 10 pillars of those, the stewardship, his awareness, the listening, growth, just everything we just talked about. I feel like he embodies to a T. So that was who I instantly thought of, and interested to hear some of the other coaches and people y'all thought of.
I was gonna say the same, Dabo. I mean, I grew up a Clemson fan, so it's kind of hard not to say Dabo. But yeah, he kind of resembles all those attributes. Just how long he's been in the game, growing and learning from pretty much everybody around him. So I feel like he's done a really, really good job with that.
I personally have two. One is someone I actually know, someone's and the other one's someone I don't really know, but basically looking up to, or not looking up to, but just hearing kind of could happen the same year. But my first one would be Aaron Rodgers. He tore his Achilles last year, and like how he was kind of able to just come back still, even though I think he just got hurt recently, but how he was able to come back and just get back into training again and being back on that field. And the other person would be a guy he just recently retired. His name is Christian Taylor. He's a triple jumper as well. So that's the same event as me. And he tore his Achilles. And pretty much, everybody thought he was done with. He was kind of an older guy, but he was able to come back compete in the USA trials to get ready for the Olympics this year. Even though he didn't make it, he still was able to, people doubted him and didn't think that he would be able to come back from, tearing his Achilles. So that just kept me going. And like I was able to speak to him and he was able to give me just that confidence in saying that, even though you tore your Achilles, you still can keep going and accomplish a lot of things.
I don't know a lot of coaches or anyone in sports, but one that I can speak to is Scott. Ooh, I'm gonna butcher that last name, so I'm not even gonna try. He's at UNC Asheville for baseball. It was actually one of the Chalk Talks that I had taken a look at. One of the things that I really liked was his term "sweep the shed." So it's like no task is too small for anyone, including the coaches. That was something that kind of resonated with me because I think we get wrapped up, especially like people in supervisor roles get really wrapped up in like the big picture things. And then it's like, oh, well, I'm too big and I do all of these really important things to take care of the other stuff. And that's not something that I'm going to do. So I really, really liked hearing him talk about that and how he gets up early in the morning and like goes to set up before his players even get there. Um, so it's like mitigating egos of senior members, which was really, really cool. But it also shows the their players and stuff that again, like they're not too big to do these things. And so they feel more empowered to build rapport and build that community and to take those things on. So if they see that being represented, then they're more likely to do those things for the team. So that was a really, really interesting one that I actually really enjoyed.
I don't know, like, just personal experience with my coach when I was in college. She did a really good job making sure that everyone on our team acted as a servant leader. She was really big on punishment for if you did things wrong or if you were late, or things like that. But it was never you sit out practice or you have to go do more study hall hours. You would take home a strip of Velcro and you would pick all the hair and the fuzz out of it so that the whole team would benefit from it. So she just did a really good job of keeping that kind of servant mindset for everybody, for the whole team. And I think it paid off for us. And we made it to nationals all 4 years that I was in college, and we had a good culture because of it. No one felt better than anyone else. And she was really humble to all the athletes as well. So
That's awesome. I feel like the servant leadership, if you can embody that as the coach or whoever's at like the top of the leaderboard, like there's so many people I've met where like they're still like they're at these high positions, but they're still the people you see picking up trash off the ground, things like that. So there's no kind of leadership like leading by example. And I think some of the leaders y'all talked about embody that to a T. And then as we move into the final question here, I think we only got about like 8 or 10 minutes left. Just talking about resilience. And so watching that little video she had, it kind of asked to define resilience. And what I put down was it's one's ability to endure setbacks and overcome self-doubt in an effort to rise above that and kind of come back stronger than ever. And then the only other note I really had on that is in terms of how do you teach resilience, and I think that's who you are when times are difficult. Like it's easy to lead when everything's going good, when you're winning, everybody's healthy. But who are you when you're hurt or your teammates hurt or your team's losing or you got some setback? I think you show who you are as a leader. I think that's when you truly come out as the leader that you are, and also just builds resilience as like leading by example. If you're resilient in those tough times, your players and your followers are going to be as well.
Yeah, going off that, I kind of resonated with like baseball, growing up playing baseball. So it's known as like the game of failure. So there's a lot of failure in the game of baseball. So if you're going through a slump or you're struggling at something in the game, uh, everyone's really going to see how you react to that, react to the failures and the struggles you're going through. So I think a good way of coming back out of that is kind of being adaptable through that adversity, and trying to lift everybody up around you in order to meet the same goal that everybody has.
When like watching the video, my first thing came to my mind was minor setbacks for major comebacks. So like I feel that and also I feel as well that like people tend to listen or kind of like have an open ear to people that's been through either injuries or anything that had something similar to what they've been through. So I know just like example like I was saying before, like with me tearing my Achilles, I know that hearing talking to someone that had a tear Achilles, or I also had another coach talk to someone that he hurt his patella at the World Championship, and being able to listen to what they had to say and just how they overcame that obstacle that helped me. So I feel like my I used to give that back to other people that I've known that's been injured and had like had kind of had doubts of trying to come back from what they've been through. So I just feel that it's kind of like me passing the plate and just keep it going, the tradition going, just being able to give back to when it comes down to just people that you can relate to.
Yeah, whenever I was thinking about this, the first thing that came to mind was like the ability to bounce back from things. So in with my team, a lot of it, there's a lot. Okay, so there's an on-call part of their position. So they have like an on-call phone. So residents can call them in emergencies or if they need something like that. So that's something that's a really big point with our staff members is like building resilience through on-call crisis. Um, but there are some things where like it calls for that higher support. So kind of going back to the four squares there, some of those situations do call for that like more support, but sometimes you have to let them struggle just a little bit so that they can figure out for themselves like what actions to take. And it really like enhances their growth if you got to let them struggle a little. But it is like it's a pretty fine balance to strike because you don't want to squander their growth and like make sure that they have that support system in place that they can fall back onto. And like you had said, like modeling that. But yeah, it's something that you really have to work with and figure out how that works. I'm not sure like what that balance looks like with sports, but it is a pretty tough balance to strike with our staff. So it's something that you really have to pay attention to, and it's different from person to person. So some people may have issues with one situation, and based on their identity, it might be something totally different for them. So also acknowledging like when to let them struggle in certain situations and what things that you need to support them a little bit more with, because that's just an area that they're not comfortable with or ready to grow in. So I think, yeah, keep saying that, but striking that balance with them.
Yeah, the very first thing to think of when I think of resilience is fail fast and move on. That's what I always tell myself. That's what people above me have always, and that's all you can do. You have to recognize where it messed up, and then you have to know how to move forward after that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have like maybe like 5 more minutes just to try and get to that 30-minute mark. Just with talking about resilience, like Xavier, you mentioned your injuries and stuff. Like, do you feel like you became more resilient because of that injury? Kind of like helps you to teach that to the younger guys on your team?
Oh, definitely. I definitely think I have. Like, I can say that just being able to like example, like one of our freshmen right now is dealing with like knee problems, and but he doesn't take care of the knee. So it's just like at the end of the day, like trying to teach him, like, when you feel things, take care of it. Like at the end of the day, like, you don't want to be having that feeling of, it actually being something serious, and then it sets you back because you can go, it goes through a lot. Like, just I can just remember the times of even though, like I said, the year went by fast, but I can remember the time of just like the whole process of trying to come back from my Achilles being torn. So I just feel that, I wouldn't want to wish that on nobody. So I just try to like, try to preach to prevent those type of things happening, a major injury, because like it plays a lot in your mind game, and just, trying to get back to that point where you were before you got that injury.
Yeah, that's good. And even like you talk about like the mind games you play, like someone like Aaron Rodgers, like he's such an interesting guy to kind of study and learn about with all the stuff that goes on about him. But like the mental confidence he had, where like he took that injury, and like I really think like if that team was in a playoff position last year, I think they might have thrown him out there, right? Like let him go out there and play a couple games. So like just that mind over matter stuff, like that's such a big part of being resilient. Like you're gonna fail, but it's like the failure isn't necessarily what kills you as much as like the self-doubt that creeps in from the failure. And then you get to this second guessing game with yourself. And so I think a lot of resilience is almost tuning that noise out, or maybe a healthier way of doing it is acknowledging like, hey, yeah, like maybe I'm not 100% confident in this, but like that's a normal thing, with the adversities you faced. And because of those adversities, I'm going to overcome this. So with just the last minute or two, anybody kind of have like anything else they want to talk about or any like final remarks?
I think to what you were saying, that goes back to again the like four squares of the situational leadership is like also how your coach is interacting with you and supporting you through that mental like mind game that you kind of have to play with yourself. So I wonder what that looks like on athletic teams and like how have you been supported or what was a bad experience for you? Like if you've ever incurred that kind of stuff.
I can say, like, just like based off of just like last season at when I was at Florida State, my coach, he did play a part where he helped me, I can say, where he checked up on me. He did like he checked up on me, made sure I was okay. Like he would ask me, just kind of keep me encouraged, like, you ready to, because my plan was to try to come back for the pairs, but it was kind of just hard dealing with all that. But he kind of played a part too, where like I feel like I was kind of left out of some certain things because I was injured, even though I felt that I could do it. So it's like, why would you leave me out of that thing? So, but it also made me work harder to be like, okay, let me, even though he's not acknowledging me or he's not talking to me, I'm gonna make him talk to me. So it made me kind of like, work harder, make sure I did my rehab, work high practices on my own to get back to, the athletes that were I was practicing with that were kind of like, been training whole year.
Boom, that's resilience.
All right, awesome. So I think we're right at that 30-minute mark. So it was a pleasure getting to meet y'all. I'm glad we were able to get this knocked out here on Thursday. I'm gonna upload the recording. I'll get the paper done here in the next 30 minutes. I'll shoot y'all a text, just let you know I uploaded it. And so pleasure getting to talk to y'all. Best of luck rest of the semester and going forward, and just y'all have a blessed night.
You too. Thank you, Carson. Nice to meet y'all.